People's Platform.
Good evening and welcome to the People's Platform. My guest tonight is Dr. Felix Neumann, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Sri Lanka. Good evening and welcome to the show, Ambassador.
Good evening.
Wonderful to have you with us here in Sri Lanka and on tonight's show. Ambassador, exactly 3 months ago you presented your letter of credence to President Ranil Wickremesinghe, and this is incidentally also your first appointment in South Asia. What have been some of your initial observations in Sri Lanka, given Sri Lanka's unique disposition? It is going through an economic crisis. It is in an IMF-supported program. What have been some of your initial observations?
My initial observation is that after 70 years of bilateral relations between Germany and Sri Lanka, these relations are by no ways old. They are actually present, they are lively, they are vivid. You mentioned that I presented my credentials in the end of August, 3 months ago. And I wrote in the book of the president, Germany is here as a friend. And that is my first impression. I am here as a friend, and Germany is welcomed as a friend in this country, and this is a solid fundament for continuing our bilateral relations.
Sri Lanka and Germany, like you said, will be celebrating 70 years of diplomatic relations in a few weeks, and these long-standing ties have no doubt laid the foundation for further enhancing the friendship between the two countries. How do you view this?
Indeed. It is our firm conviction that we have a lot of possibilities to enhance our bilateral relations. The future will see an enhancement in four areas: reconciliation, social cohesion, climate change is very important, maybe a more new topic, and of course our economic relations will be and need to be enhanced as well. The private sector is very important. German industry is willing to invest abroad. I have learned that Sri Lanka is open for that, so let us work together to ease up the possibilities for foreign investments in Sri Lanka in order to foster growth, which will help Sri Lanka as well in its way to develop. If I may add, we share with Sri Lanka the view that political discussions should be done, especially in a regional framework, in a multilateral framework. Sri Lanka took over this year the presidency of the very important regional organization, the Indian Ocean Pacific Rim Organization. Mm-hmm. Germany is in that organization active as well as a dialogue partner. And together we can achieve a lot. We share the idea that there is a freedom of navigation, that there is a freedom of using maritime resources, but in a sustainable way. That blue economy has a future and needs to be developed in order to get the climate change under control. And this framework, this multilateral framework, is of course on the fundament of the rule of law. We share with Sri Lanka the long-standing tradition of being convinced that the rule of law is the one which governs the international relations. It's not the power of the most powerful, but the rule of law which is necessary for everyone. And in this multilateral forum, we will support and continue to work together with Sri Lanka as well.
Ambassador, in 2022, just last year, bilateral trade with Sri Lanka was worth 1.1 billion euro. Germany is a very important market for Sri Lanka, and Germans make up a significant number of the country's foreign tourists. Going forward, how can business ties be further enhanced?
I share what is said in the question. It is indeed 1 billion euros. That is a lot, and we can fostering this. Both countries have a sense for free market economy. There are free companies in both markets. There are more than 200 German brands represented in Sri Lanka. They are all interested to intensify our bilateral relations. You mentioned the tourist sector. More and more tourists after the COVID crisis, German tourists are coming back to Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka has a great natural potential. Sri Lanka is a green island, is a beautiful nature, has different climates to offer, and the German tourist of today is aware of a sustainable tourist behavior. He is interested to learn the foreign cultures. There are long-standing ties between German tourists as well and Sri Lankan hosts. Many of them repeat now to come. What we see is that up to July already more than 53,000 tourists from Germany visited Sri Lanka, and the season is still to come. As we are talking here in Berlin, if I may say, it's 0 degrees, so it's rather cold. Nature is now sleeping, so this will help, of course, now for more tourists come to Sri Lanka, and together with the Sri Lankan tourism industry, a lot can be achieved to build up for that in future as well.
Germany is also engaged in Sri Lanka in various ways through the Goethe Institute, the German Academic and Exchange Service, the Development Cooperation Organization, and multiple other initiatives. Speak to us about the significance of such initiatives in further cementing the relationship between the countries, Dr. Neumann.
Indeed, throughout the 7 decades, Germany, with the help of Sri Lanka, established what I would call the German network. We, with all our agencies, you named it, the German Academic Exchange Service, the Goethe Institute, the GIZ for Development Aid, the Friedrich Naumann Stiftung as a political foundation, and since 2018 as well the delegation of the German Chamber for Foreign Trade and Industry. We have a full set of organizations here to provide input for fostering and enhancing bilateral relations. With this network, we were able to build up here the vocational training. There are these famous centers called German Tech, in which every year young Sri Lankans can get a professional qualification, which is renowned not only in Germany but globally. If I may name two flagships, there's one in Kilinochchi, one in Muratova. This is everyday cooperation. Every day there is a chance for Sri Lankan citizens which wish to qualify themselves. The centers tell me that the Sri Lankan educational system is very good, so there is already a basis on which the special vocation then can build on, and this is going to be intensified and going to be continued, and with that personnel there is a good basis as well, provided, you asked for the private companies, provided that we succeed together to ease up business doing and foreign investments in Sri Lanka.
The economic crisis has disproportionately affected communities in the north and east of Sri Lanka. You mentioned a German tech in Kilinochchi as well. Speak to us about the importance of having an equitable process of vocational training and education, and how can Germany help in this respect?
The German centers for vocational training, of course, they transfer technical skills, but with the technical skills, they open as well the perspective beyond the technical sphere. Modern business is based on global understanding and global cooperation. Getting in touch with German technology, getting in touch with German language. We haven't talked so far about the Goethe Institute, which we will maybe doing later. opens for the citizens, for the participants, their mind, and they can train their mind, taking into account new perspectives, balancing it, and this leads to a more balanced view and an enhanced capacity to solve problems.
We're going for a short commercial break. We're in conversation with Ambassador Dr. Felix Neumann. We'll be right back.
The People's Platform.
TV1. TV for life.
Cannot place the entire blame for the economic collapse on the Rajapakshas. President speaks on Supreme Court judgment to Indian media. Taxes were reduced with the concurrence of the opposition. Slashing taxes was not the reason for the economic collapse. Former Finance Secretary speaks. SJB pressures the government to take action against those found responsible for the economic crisis in the Supreme Court judgment. Select committee to inquire into the Constitutional Council. President informs Parliament.
TV1. TV for life.
මං හිතන්නේ නෑ ලොයිඩ්ට ලේසියෙන් ගැලවීමක් ලැබෙයි කියලා. ලොයිඩ් දාගත්ත ප්‍රශ්නවලට මං කොහොමද විසඳුම් හොයන්නේ?
අපේ තනිකර රෙස්ලින් ගේමක් තියෙන්නේ. එයි. එයි ගලහන්. ඌට අහුවෙන්නම බෙල්ල. ළඟට එන්න බා. පාරපල.
නීල පබලු අද රාත්‍රී 9ට සිරස ටෙලිතිරයෙන්.
කසාදේ පළවෙනි රාත්‍රියේත් මං ගැනම හිත ඉන්නද හදන්නේ?
ආදිත්‍යගේ ජීවිතේ තැනක් තියෙන්නේ මට විතරයි.
හැමෝම දන්නවනේ ආදි ඉම්ලි කොයිතරම් ආදරෙන්ද හිටියේ කියලා. දැන් නම් මට යකෙක් කන්න තරම් බඩගිනි.
ඔයා මොකද උතන්ට වෙලා බලාගෙන ඉන්නේ? ගෝ කිචන්.
කන්න ඕනේ නම් එයා හදාගෙන කයි.
මං ඔයාව ඇඬෙව්වනේ.
කඳුළු ආවිලි උණු කපන හින්දා මිසක් ඔයාගේ කතාවට නෙවෙයි.
අද ලුණු කපන්න ගිහිල්ලා මේ කරවිලෙක්ට කඳුළු ආවා.
අද රාත්‍රී 9:30ට සිරස ටෙලිතිරයෙන්.
Inflation, exchange rates and the rise and fall of the stock market. Bringing you insights into the business world. Watch the Business Buzz every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. on TV1.
The People's Platform.
Welcome back to the show. I'm in conversation with Dr. Felix Neumann, Ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Sri Lanka. Dr. Neumann, on the topic of peace building and non-recurrence of conflict, Germany successfully uses its education system to teach its children about the country's past, about its history, which is geared towards fostering a culture of inclusiveness and equality. What lessons must Sri Lanka learn as Sri Lanka is going through a process of education reform in teaching meaningful history, conflict and peace studies towards ensuring a more equitable society?
Well, it is of course the Sri Lankan sovereign decision how and what the curriculum are in the Sri Lankan schools. But I'm very grateful for these questions as it gives me the opportunity to talk about our German experience. Indeed, we made a lot of good experience by underlining that remembrance is very important, and with the remembrance an open discussion. And there is a need for everyone to express his or her experience. And even if the experience, or especially if these experiences are marked by atrocities as a witness of atrocities, or even as a victim, it is necessary that this is spoken out, that there is an open area for a discussion, for questions and answers. If such a process of discussion is allowed, we in Germany, we have the experience, this is sometimes painful. It was painful for us. In Germany, we needed quite a lot of time because we were afraid of the pain. But once we started, we realized that the pain must come out. And once it's out and discussed, this does not wipe out the experience, but then the experience is on the table. You can discuss it. There may be controversial discussions, but in the end it establishes a common understanding of the past and an inclusive understanding. So there is not only one perspective, this is the past, and then this view of the past must be defended. No, if everyone has an inclusive understanding of the past, and as we are all human beings, there may be different understandings, but if it is inclusive, then, at least in Germany, it led to the reconciliation. And our experience is that all over the world, in all countries, in all peoples, mind, if this is done, we are rather optimistic that our positive experience with that can be easily repeated in other countries as well, in Sri Lanka as well.
Ambassador, arts and culture play a significant role in bringing communities together, and the universality of art itself shows us how it can bring countries together as well. The Goethe Institute does some phenomenal work. Do you believe that arts has a greater role in the grander scheme of things? We also spoke about the importance of healing.
I would agree. Germany would agree on that. Arts and cultures are very important for a global understanding. They need to be open-minded. That is why in Germany in 1957 the Goethe Institute was founded and concluded a contract with the German Federal Foreign Office to provide this global culture. It is of course a German institute, and it is near and is financed to a big extent by the German Federal Foreign Office, but it is independent in its way to provide culture and art. And the Goethe Institute is also the messenger of the German language, because language is the key to understand foreign culture. Therefore, Goethe Institute fosters on a global scale, but especially in Sri Lanka as well, the knowledge of the German language. More than 80 schools, partners of the Goethe Institute, to train scholars, to train teachers as well. I myself, it's now two days ago, I had the honor and the privilege to assist to an award to 65 Sri Lankan teachers who successfully concluded such language training, and then now they go out in the schools and they spread the German language again, and with the German language comes the German culture and the understanding of a foreign culture. Let me come back to the language point maybe once again. More than 4,000 Sri Lankans every year pass the exam on different levels of the German language within the Goethe Institute. And afterwards, they understand the German literature, of course. And the Goethe Institute provides a library. Nowadays, I would say not only books, but it's an electronic library as well, the latest electronic games as well. So it's even not necessary to travel long distances. The German culture is centered there and is open for everyone. And of course, the Goethe Institute has a reach out in the country. There are cultural festivals, dancing events, exhibitions, and a human being is not only working on the relation of work and business. We are all a part of a cultural universe as well. And in the ways I tried to describe, this offers the opportunity to meet in that cultural universe. And meeting between different cultures promote understanding, and understanding promotes cooperation, and cooperation promotes a peaceful world.
We are meeting on the sidelines of the two countries celebrating 70 years of diplomatic relations. As I began the interview, I said that Sri Lanka is in a unique position in terms of striving towards economic recovery. In terms of socio-economic development, what role can Germany play in furthering Sri Lanka's economic recovery? You started off saying that Germany is Sri Lanka's friend. What kind of cooperation, bilateral cooperation, technical cooperation can we expect?
Yes, Germany looks back into 7 decades of cooperation. We have the structures. I just touched upon it. We have these German tech centers. We have the vocational training. We have the German Sri Lankan Business Council as well, a body which is active since 1999. All this together led in 91 to a sum up of 1.5 billion Deutschmarks at the time for financial cooperation and technical cooperation. Now, speaking of today, we mentioned in the first part that the bilateral exchange, trade exchange, is worth 1.1 billion euros, which would be 2 billion Deutschmarks at the time. So what is important is that we ease the possibilities for business and investment. We are working closely together with our Sri Lankan partners to set up regulations which are open-minded. German companies and German industry is ready to invest abroad. There is no lack of capital. The contrary, the German society has more capacities than it needs itself. So it is from our point, we wish to invest in foreign countries. And as I said, Germany is here as a friend. Of course, we prefer to invest in friendly countries in which we trust, and we trust in the capacity of Sri Lanka to ease up these conditions. And these bunch of then German investments, building up the vocational centers, training the labor force here, this will create growth, economic growth. And that is what Sri Lanka, as many other countries, as Germany as well, what we need, economic growth. Because when the growth starts, every country has the capacity to grow out of its debts, because the money creates more money, value added, if as the economics say. And I see already that it starts. I have seen the big cruise lines coming back within the tourist sector. I have seen that they invest here in schools, hotel schools for gastronomy and the hotel business. And the young Sri Lankans students that are working in these schools, then they go on these ships. And they have a lot of possibilities for a career, and of course they are linked to their families here, and all together this is what we are working for together with Sri Lanka.
Speak to us about the celebrations planned for Saturday in view of the 70th anniversary of the two countries.
Thank you for this question. This gives me the possibility to invite everyone for the 2nd of December on the Gallface Green, starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There will be a big tent, there will be a stage with cultural events on it. German companies will showcase what they are doing, what they are able to do, what they wish to do with the Sri Lankan partners. There will be stalls of this German network, the Goethe Institute, which we mentioned, the German Academic Exchange Service, the GIZ will be there, the Development Aid Agency of Germany, the Friedrich Naumann Stiftung for the political discussions, which we touched upon, as well, the German Chamber for Trade and Commerce. There will be stalls where you can buy food, either Sri Lankan ones or German ones, and of course the entry is free. It's free of charge. All the entertainment. There will be a children's corner, a puppet show where parents and children can play together. So the idea is to say thank you to the Sri Lankan people. Thank you to Sri Lanka for 7 decades of a wonderful relationship between the two countries.
And finally, Ambassador, what does the future of bilateral relations between the two countries look like?
I'm very optimistic that seven decades is by far not the end of our relations, but it is, maybe in a historical point of view, it's a first very good start. We will have a new era of bilateral relations. In 1952, Germany was a small country, not unified, with the burden of a lost war, starting with a currency which was not convertible, and very few partners in the world. Sri Lanka became one of it. Today, both Sri Lanka and Germany are settled democracies having 70 years of successful history behind them. So the conditions to build up together something are by far better than in 52, and we already succeeded in 52.
All right, Dr. Felix Neumann, thank you very much for coming into the studio today.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching us, and we'll see you again. Good night.